Hello and welcome to the fourth part of my How to Spitfire Mk IX series. In this one, I explain the different loadout options we have for the Spitfire Mk IX. The standard engine of the Spitfire is the Merlin 66. The Merlin 70, which we can choose here, performs better at high altitude. You get much better performance at 7,000 meters, 22,000 feet and beyond. However, at low altitudes, the engine performs a little worse. So you can see in this overlaid speed graph how the M70 fares against the M66. The difference seems marginal down low, but since the Spitfire is already not the best in the speed department, I personally would advise against the M70. One could argue that if the Spitfire 9 is already the slowest of the pack, why not make it a little slower down low while gaining quite a bit of performance higher up? In some circumstances this might make sense. But I can count on one hand the engagement I had at these extreme altitudes, so I would rather take the extra 10 kph on the deck with the M66. Also, the M70 can't be combined with a 150 octane fuel, which is a much more important upgrade. Clipped wings. The clipped wings involve shortening the wingspan of the aircraft by cutting off a section of each wing. One of the primary benefits of clipped wings is the improved roll performance at all speeds. With less wing area, the aircraft can roll faster and more responsively. This is especially advantageous in combat situations where rapid changes in direction are necessary to outmaneuver an opponent. For example, rolling scissors or flat scissors. The clipped wings also make the aircraft marginally faster due to reduced drag, although the difference in speed is relatively small. Another advantage of clipped wings is the improved overall handling and feeling, with the aircraft becoming a bit more benign at the controls. This makes the Spitfire easier to fly, especially for pilots who are less experienced or who are transitioning to the aircraft from other types. While the climb rate of the aircraft is almost unaffected by the wings, it's very slightly worse. However, it's not a significant factor in most operational situations. So to summarize, they provide improved roll performance, better handling and a slight increase in speed with minimal impact on other aspects of the aircraft's performance. As such, this is the go-to modification for me. 150 octane. This high octane fuel enables a boost of 25 pounds, compared to the 18 pounds boost in the default version of the Spitfire. The advantages of 150 octane fuel are significant. For starters, it adds almost 30 kph to the Spitfire's top speed on the deck, closing the gap between the Spitfire and its primary opponent, the Bf109 G14 and G6 Late if you want. This extra speed can mean the difference between catching an enemy or being left behind, making it a critical advantage in combat situations. The fuel also massively boosts the climb rate of the Spitfire, outperforming even the Bf109 K4 by a wide margin. The only downside is the increased fuel consumption, meaning that sorties can be cut short if high power settings are used too often. Overall, however, the advantages of 150 octane fuel in the Spitfire far outweigh the drawbacks. It provides a significant boost in speed, climb rate and similarly acceleration. As such, if it's available, there is no reason not to use it. Rockets and bombs. I generally don't equip rockets or bombs for my Spitfire. They are just better ground attackers with more options on the Allied side. The P-38, the P-47, the Typhoon or the Mosquito are just 4 aircraft which are better suited for the ground attacker job. The Spitfire is fragile, has a water-cooled engine and only carries a relatively small payload. I rather recommend taking the Spitfire as escort the mentioned ground attack aircraft. Look around and protect the ground pounders and do not take precious attention away from your surroundings. If there's really nothing around you in the air, you can still strafe the A or AAA positions to clear the path for your incoming friendlies. Gyro gunsight. I won't talk that much about the gyro gunsight today because I already explained the general functionality in the second part of my P51 video. You find the link as an annotation on the video right now. The only thing I want to add is that I like to take the gyro in the Spitfire more often than on the Mustang. The Mustang features a slip indicator right on the standard gun sight, and if you take the gyro on the Mustang, that slip indicator gets replaced. Since the Spitfire does not have a slip indicator on the standard gun sight, this is not a disadvantage for me. Generally speaking, there are only two downsides to the gyro. One is that it does not help in many situations where the enemy is not in one plane of flight with the Spitfire or does not pull the same amount of G. In these cases, the pilot skill has to take over and the pilot needs to ignore the lead indicator and has to rely solely on the fixed gun sight and his guts. The other downside is the size of the sight, so the entire construction of it. It's quite large and blocks the view on the instrument panel in some camera positions. Does not bother me that much, but I heard from some pilots that I'd rather fly with a standard gun sight because of this. So I put it down to personal taste. The mirror can be helpful, especially for VR pilots. I personally don't equip it that often because it protrudes quite a bit from the cockpit, and while it only states that the speed loss of that you can expect a speed loss of 1 kph, this particular speed loss is for level flight. So if you are diving, for example, the speed loss is a bit higher. The speed loss is of course not that great, but since the mirror does not really give me that much of an advantage when checking my 6, I can check my 6 just fine with Tracker R. But this is it for today. In the next one I take a look at the performance statistics of the Spitfire. And I will compare it, of course, against its opponents. So stay tuned for that, and I promise you it won't take 2 years.